Let's tell the jury about Hicksville, May 2013. Can you tell the jury what transpired at Hicksville?
It's like a fancy trailer park, like a little hotel in the middle of nowhere, set up with these little trailers, and we had made a plan to go there with friends, and we were going to do, like laughy, as we said, laughy drugs, like mushrooms, eat mushrooms, sit by a campfire. There's really not a whole lot else to do out there. It's like a getaway. We had made this plan, and it was going fine. It was like a, kind of like a party out in the desert, with a few friends and campfire and music. And I don't know somebody brought MDMA. It was being passed around, and somebody who took it kind of was starting to feel the effects of it, I guess is the best way to describe. She kind of reacted in this way where when the MDMA hit her, she kind of, we were sitting around a campfire, all of us, and she kind of just leaned into me and put her, head on my shoulder and kind of grabbed my arm. I took it, to be the effects of the drug. I think I had eaten a mushroom cap, but was not feeling anything at the time. I don't remember feeling anything because the night just kind of changed pretty dramatically before I really felt anything of the effects of that. But that was the environment we were in, and as soon as she kind of did this thing where she leaned into me, Johnny gets really activated. He gets really upset, and he starts. Well, at first she thought he was kidding too. She thought he was kind of making a joke. I think we all did. Everyone kind of responded at first, that like it was a joke. But he was like, "Hey man, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing?" And she kind of giggled and kind of leaned into me more, and I knew in my body just instantly that it wasn't a joke. But she didn't. So she's kind of still attached to my arm when he says it again to her louder. He says, "Hey man, you think you're touching my fucking girl? You think you're touching my fucking girl? That's my fucking girl." And he gets louder and louder. And she kind of did this thing, half understanding what was going on. I think she kind of started to cry at this point, but she kind of threw up her hands, and Johnny grabbed her wrist and kind of twisted it and pulled her into him and said, "Do you know how many pounds of pressure it takes to break a human wrist? Huh?" And he kind of held her, and she just looked frozen. And she's crying, and was just denying understanding what was going on. I stepped in. I kind of take Johnny's arm around, kind of take Johnny's hand, and kind of we start communicating. I don't remember if he immediately was accusing me or if it was sometime after. I wish I remembered, but we agreed that we'd go and talk about it in the trailer. So we walked to the trailer, and when we're in the trailer, Johnny, by the time we get into the trailer, Johnny tells me that I had been instigating asking for this, and that I had invited it, and that I hadn't been honest with him about my relationship with this woman. And I didn't really know her that well. I mean, I actually don't know her at all, but I had met her. And I remember in the trailer, he's accusing me of lying about it, and that I had something with her. I'm trying to diffuse that. I'm trying to calm him down. And he just turned all that, it seemed like he turned all that rage onto the trailer itself. And he just started smashing things. He picked up something on the table and threw it right into the glass cabinet. He hit with his hand a wall sconce. He cleared the tabletop on the little fold down like kitchen dining room area in this trailer. I mean, it's a trailer, so there's only so much you can do. And he's screaming at me, just screaming at me. And I eventually go back into the bedroom area. He comes into the bedroom area. We had what I can only describe as it sounded like nonsense from him. It wasn't making sense. And I realized that he's just probably really high. Because it wasn't making sense anymore. It wasn't like a direct accusation. He wasn't hearing me when I was saying I wasn't involved, wasn't cheating on him. I wasn't secretly trying to engage this woman in some sort of sexual affair. And then it became clear to me he was like looking for something. He cleared things off the bed. I went into the bathroom, and as I come out, he asked me where it is and how long I've been hiding it. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he says, you know what I'm fucking talking about. You know what I'm fucking talking about. Be honest with me. Where are you hiding it? And he kind of like makes to look into the bathroom. And I gestured to the bathroom, which was to my right. I kind of like gestured to him and I said, like, what am I hiding and where am I going to hide it? And we're standing in this little hallway area outside of the bathroom, and he starts, what it feels like patting me down or saying he's patting me down. I can't recall, but he ripped my dress, the strap top part of my dress. I had just dyed this thing myself pink, and it's just one of those things I was like, I just finished that dress. And he's like grabbing my breasts, he's touching my thighs, he rips my underwear off, and then he proceeds to do a cavity search. He said he was looking for his drugs, his cocaine, his coke. I was wondering how somebody who didn't do cocaine and was against it, that was in and of itself causing problems in our relationship. How could I hide? Why would I hide his drugs from, like he was insinuating that I was doing it or something? It made no sense. And he was telling me we're gonna conduct a cavity search, shall we? Like, just shoved his fingers inside me. I just stood there staring at the stupid light. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there. While he did that, he twisted his fingers around. I didn't say like stop or anything.
So the next morning, what transpired?
I remember thinking that Johnny would change his mind. And it would be, I thought it would end differently. I kind of froze. I don't know we went to bed that night. I don't know how I went to bed. I don't know how I slept. I don't know how we woke up. I don't remember having a conversation with him the next day. I don't remember talking to him about it or confronting him about it. I remember wanting it to be okay. I remember just wanting whatever fucking weird trip, whatever trip that was to end, just to be over and for it to just go back to normal. And I remember my friends were out by the pool. Like there was a pool in the center of the trailer park, and I remember putting on my, just putting on my face and going back into this like crap, and I remember seeing my friends by the pool thinking they were just having a great time, and no one knew what was, I felt so lonely, like no one knows everyone was just having a good time, like normal stuff. So I just smiled, made a joke about how trashed the trailer got, and we had to get the manager, who started off furious that Johnny had wrecked the thing. And then he had this like black mesh not tank top, it was like a meshy kind of shirt on. And I remember he came into the trailer and looked around and was like, whoa, what happened here? Whoa. And Johnny had an exchange with him. And I remember watching this man be so charmed. It was just a kind of a surreal experience. And, it just went away. That just got fixed. We walked out of the trailer at some point. My dog stepped on a bee. We went to the vet and went on with our, vacation. We actually went to another location after that, and then eventually went home and went about our life.
I'm going to ask you to take a look. Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 176? Hicksville was in May of 2013. Did there come a time that you wrote an email?
Objection, leading, and hearsay, Your Honor. May we approach?
All right. In June 2013, how were you feeling about your relationship with Mr. Depp?
May we have the exhibit taken away from... Sure. Thank you.
By June, I was so torn. I was so in love with this person. Because when it was good, it was so good. You've never felt love like that. At least that's how it felt. So much. I felt like he recognized me and I recognized him, and there was just something there that was the love of my life. And he was, but he was also this other thing. He was also this other thing. And that other thing was awful thing that would come out and take over, and it was, you couldn't see the Johnny I loved underneath it. It was this other thing. And no one told him, no one was honest with him, no one, he'd pass out in his own vomit, he'd lose control of his body, he'd lose control, and everyone would clean up after him. I cleaned up after him. I mean, this man lost control of his bowels, and I cleaned up after him. His security cleaned up after him, changed his pants in front of me. He would pass out in his own sick. And then he'd walk around saying he didn't have a problem. Until he did. until he couldn't support it anymore, and he'd get clean and he'd get sober, and then he was this thing again. This thing that made me feel so loved, that made me feel like my soulmate, as cheesy as that sounds. I just felt like he knew me. And I recognized something in him, either some part of my makeup and my background or something, that I just got it. And I loved him and understood him. It just got so scary, the other part of him. And in June, I wanted to leave him. I didn't want to leave him. I wanted to leave him. I wanted him to get better. And he expressed to me so many times when he was in that period of getting clean and sober, he would tell me, "You saved my life. Baby girl, you saved my life." Everyone else was saying that to me, and I believed it. You know, if everyone else was saying it, he was saying it. I thought, just like his other friends who had gotten clean and sober and stayed that way, his older friends, these rock stars that he hung out with that had like gotten clean and sober and they had 20, 30 years, something, you know, I thought, and Johnny told me he would be that person, that he was going to be that person, and I believed it. I had so much, I looked at that man twice my age, you know, I was 25, looking at this man twice my age, and I saw hope and like promise. I had so much hope. You know, the whole thing, kids and growing old together, sort of hope. If it was just for this one thing that he could do, which would save his life, which would be to get clean and sober. And I believed it. And I wrote this letter to myself, among many letters to myself.
Objection, hearsay.
All she did was refer to that she wrote it. She isn't saying what she said.
I'll rule for that.
Thank you.
Okay. I wrote that letter because I thought it would be read to him. I could read it to him. I could say it to him in intervention, you know, in help. And he would later thank me for, as he used to thank me all the time for saving his life.
Did there come a time later in June that you finally met Johnny's kids?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I finally met them in the summer of 2013. I had been with Johnny for over a year, maybe like a year and a half at this point, is my best guess. And I was dying to meet them, you know, dying to get to know these kids. I felt like I knew them already. I had his daughters, and Jack's, both of his kids' art on my fridge, and I had never even met them. You know, Johnny had brought them over one day and kindly given them to me, and I had them up on my fridge because I felt like I knew them, just how much he talked about them. And I finally got to meet them at the Lone Ranger premiere at Disneyland, summer 2013.
So then I'm going to jump to, and it's not much of a jump, to June 26, 2013. There was a plane ride to Russia with Johnny. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Well, tell the jury about that particular event.
Well, that was the first and last time I ever decided it would be a decent idea to do drugs with Johnny. I did MDMA with him on the plane, which was as stupid as it may sound. I just had never, I was very against, obviously the cocaine had been a problem. I was very much against him using cocaine. I was against the drinking, supportive of the sobriety, but I'm 26 maybe, ish. And I wanted, you know, I had never heard of anyone making MDMA like what I had done MDMA before. You know, I thought it's a lovey drug. It's a, you know, it's like a kind of, I never knew anyone to get violent on it. And, you know, I thought, well, this is a relatively contained environment. Maybe this will be different. Maybe I can be a good cop and be part of the, you know, like I don't have to be the lesbian counselor all the time, as you would say. You know, I can maybe be the fun girlfriend. And I learned the hard way that that was not happening.
So what happened?
Well, we took MDMA. I took a capsule. It's like a powder in a capsule. I took a capsule, and Johnny took several. I didn't count, but you know, it's very different when you see someone take one versus a handful of something. But nothing that seemed to set any alarm bells off, and things were going fine until the flight attendant got involved. The flight attendant came by, was engaging with us. I don't think that they're really, it felt like it was before the effects of the drug took over. It was relatively quick, soon after we first took our dose, if you can say. And the flight attendant, Johnny offered her some. She, of course, said no. And then after some back and forth between them, Johnny convinced her that it would be fine. So she acquiesced and took MDMA with us. And within, you know, a few minutes go by, and the same thing happened that happened on the mushrooms at Hicksville with the woman, Kelly Sue, who I've told you about. Flight attendant got friendly with me, but just friendly, just like MDMA friendly, you know, was kind of, I'm a woman, he's a man, so she was naturally, I think, more comfortable with me physically. She kind of leaned into me and kind of sat on the arm of the chair I was sitting in. I mean, after all, she's on drugs, and Johnny grabs her hand and tells her not to touch me, and she kind of reacts in a way like, you know, like she's defending herself and was trying to clarify. And he grabbed her by the wrist and slammed it down on the table and told her he could break her wrist. And I remember thinking, I've heard this before. And that was a pattern that would repeat itself a few times. These things would happen in these kind of cycles where there would be a certain element that would get filtered for a while, whether it's an accusation or a gesture, and that would be the thing that he looped on. I called it loops. And he grabs her wrist and he tells her he could break her wrist. She cries instantly, denies it, is so apologetic. Eventually he lets go. She goes to the front of the plane where the flight attendant, you know, normally hangs out, and the doors close, and I don't see her much of that whole flight. We land in Russia, and I don't really remember, you know, I don't recall any violence on the plane between Johnny and I, but I remember feeling this tension because I was wondering when it was going to aim at me. Because he had this particular thing about, well, at the time I understood he had a particular thing, a sensitivity about me and women, because I had a female partner. So I was feeling nervous, anxious, and I remember we had a very quiet ride, at least I didn't say anything, to the hotel. And almost as soon as we get into the hotel room, Johnny's accusing me of effectively having engaged that, caused that. I, of course, deny it, point out what I thought was obvious, that, you know, like we'd given her drugs, you know, wasn't an affair, wasn't, you know, and I'm trying to argue and defend myself at the same time. And At one point, Johnny just shoves me, just shoves me hard. And I fall back onto this glass table. I catch myself on the table. I don't know how some furniture got knocked around. There was I'm trying to stand up for myself. I'm trying to stand up, literally. I'm not, at this point, I don't even try to hit back or try to run. I'm in this hotel room trying to do my best to fight mostly the verbal accusations, but also I try to stay on my feet, At some point, Johnny whacks me in the face, and I don't remember feeling pain or awareness of my nose or anything. I don't remember thinking that. I remember kind of crying and feeling. I went into the bathroom and I wanted him to have I just remember wanting him to realize what had happened. I wanted him to kind of snap out of it. I wanted him to care. I wanted him to realize what was going on, because a big part of this, I felt like he wasn't aware. There was this sense that he didn't know what was going on. Again, I don't know how much of the drugs or alcohol is a part of this, but I remember crying. I came out at some point because I don't hear him in that room. I remember we had been arguing in the main room, but I went out to the hallway, which is where I presume he walked out, and his bodyguard, Jerry Judge, was in the hall. And I don't recall seeing Johnny in the hallway, but I remember seeing Jerry Judge, who gestured to my nose.
Objection, hearsay.
She's just saying gesture. He hasn't said anything yet.
All right, gesture's fine. I'll overrule the objection.
He gestures to my nose and holds out his handkerchief, like a cloth handkerchief. And I instantly felt really embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I don't know how else to describe it. I just felt like just really embarrassing. And I went inside the room.
What, if any, injury did you have?
I had a little blood coming out of my nose. I didn't know it. I didn't feel it at the time until Jerry Jerry let me know.
Okay.
And I went inside the hotel room, and as embarrassing as it is, I remember just wanting Johnny to say sorry. I wanted him to realize it. It's so stupid, but the emotional part, I just wanted him to acknowledge that this was, that he could hurt me, and I wanted it to be okay. I didn't want him to think I was interested in this flight attendant. I didn't want him to think that I would capable of cheating on him. I was in love with him. I just wanted things to be okay.
Let's take you to July 9, 2013. Did there come a time that you went for a ride you went to the Bahamas and went on a ride, the yacht, with Johnny and his kids?
Well, it's less we flew out to the Bahamas to his island. He was selling the yacht to J.K. Rowling, and he wanted to kind of have a goodbye trip on the yacht. So it was docked off the island, and I went with him and his kids, who I had quickly developed a bond with and loved. And we brought a friend along with us, I think, to kind of help. And yeah.
Okay. Tell the jury what happened on that trip.
Johnny was upset that he had to sell the boat, and he was off the wagon again, but he didn't want to tell his kids, so he was hiding it from them. He was putting it in coffee cups and drinking, and the behavior just kind of he was upset, he was emotional, and he just that's how he dealt with it, just drink. But there's just no off button with Johnny. So he just kept drinking, and the behavior kept getting more obviously drunk. And Lily Rose, his daughter at the time, was young, just maybe 14. And she started to get panicky and started to ask me questions about his drinking.
Objection, hearsay.
Without saying what Lily Rose was saying, please continue on.
Sustain the objection.
Thank you.
So she was asking me questions about the drinking, and was very upset.
Sustain the objection.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't say what Lily Rose said.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you can tell gestures,
Sorry.
you can tell, and you can say what you and Mr. Depp said, okay?
Sorry. So she was upset, and Johnny we were with the kids, and he kind of threw himself off the boat in a half playful way, like a dead fish kind of way. I don't know how to describe it, almost like a belly flop. But we were on a skip, like a smaller boat parked next to the yacht, and he's jumping. Well, he jumped off the front of it, but kind of in a chest forward way, like it looked a little scary, like not something somebody would do if they're completely okay. You know, it was started off all of us kind of taking turns jumping off the edge of the yacht into the water, and then he at one point kind of throws himself over, and it looked a little scary, the way his body fell into the water. And Lily Rose started to cry and expressed to me that she
Objection,
was
hearsay.
upset.
Sustained.
You can't say what she said. You can tell expressions or observations, but you can't say what Lily Rose said.
So Lily Rose is crying, and then the crying becomes like a panic, like almost like a panic attack, like rapid breathing, crying, lots of questions. And I'm holding her, kind of comforting her, and Johnny comes in, and within a few seconds, I realized that he, kind of shifted his attention on me, and then he seemed very angry. He asked Lily Rose to leave. Lily Rose leaves, looks at me, leaves, crying, and Johnny, I don't remember the words he used, but starts accusing me of kind of like telling on him and calling him, a drunk in front of his kids. I hadn't done that. I was actually trying to protect Johnny. It didn't feel like my place at all to share that with his daughter or anyone at the time, other than adults who might help with it, but not his kids. So I was trying to tell him I was just trying to comfort her. I was trying to protect you. He basically was accusing me of doing this thing and of making them aware of his that he was drinking again. And he slams me up against the side wall of the bedroom of the we were in the bedroom this whole time, but up against the wall of the cabin, and slams me up by my neck and holds me there for a second and tells me that he could fucking kill me. And that was an embarrassment. I was embarrassing. It was an embarrassment. This whole thing was a joke. It was all embarrassment. I made him feel sick. And I'll never forget. I'm very, very, very much in love with this whole family now. And he's saying I'm embarrassing to him. And that somehow stuck in me more than I could fucking kill you. It just sounded like hyperbole. It sounded like something he was just saying, but the names that he was calling me, well, kind of just pushing me up against the wall by my neck, it hurt my feelings. It hurt. When I saw Lily Rose again, we get, I won't say what she told me, but the next thing we do is we call for a helicopter to come and take us off of the boat or off of the island. So we leave the boat, go to the landing of a part of the island, or maybe it was a different, island we had to get to leave. And we take off. I'm holding Lily Rose literally holding her under my arm while she's crying, and we're lifting off. And Jack ended up not coming with us at the last minute. He stayed behind. And we were taking off, and I remember being really torn about leaving. I felt bad about leaving, even though that had happened. I still felt awful leaving. I felt awful leaving him. I also felt like I had done something wrong. He was mad at me. I wasn't sure, what I had done, but I remember not being, I'm getting all these text messages from him calling me all these names, and it barely coherent, barely. And I'm holding his daughter crying.
And let me just stop you for a moment. Michelle, can you pull up Defendant's Exhibit 180?
Do you believe that's already in there?
It is already into evidence, Your Honor, so if we may publish it to the jury. And Amber, I'm going to ask you to take a look at 180. And this is text messages from Mr. Depp to you. Do you recall these?
Yes, I do.
And are these the text messages?
Yes, that's what he was sending me while I was taking care of his daughter.
Your Honor, I'm about to go into another event. Should I keep going?
I mean, that's fine. Do you think this is a good point to
is
break
probably-
for the day?
I think it's probably good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and conclude for today. Again, do not read anything about this case. Do not do any outside research, and don't discuss it with anybody, okay? Have a good evening. We'll see you in the morning, okay? Thank you. And again, ma'am, since you're still in the stand, you cannot discuss your testimony with anybody to include your attorneys, okay? All right. Anything further before? All right, we'll see you in the morning.
Thank you, Your Honor.